When I say FNaF animation, what comes to mind? Maybe some of the earlier FNaF animations like 5 AM at Freddy's, or even the YouTuber parodies. But if you asked me the question, I would have to say Lhugueny's Five Nights at Freddy's animated musicals. It's the first actual FNaF animation I remember watching, and probably one of the first times I'd ever even heard about the series. Okay, but who even is Lhugueny anyway? Logan Lhugueny, better known as Lhugueny, is a YouTube animator and songwriter who started his career in the late 2000s making small animations. It wasn't until the early 2010s where he began to combine his two passions, making animated music videos of all the new hit games and movies. I grew up watching Lhugueny, and I have fond memories of coming home from school and seeing if he uploaded. So you may be asking, if you have such fond memories of the series, why title a video on them the worst FNaF animations on YouTube? Well, I hate to be the one to tell you, Lhugueny's FNaF animated musical series is commonly regarded as the worst FNaF animation series on YouTube. There's just something about the way the music is produced and the videos are animated that resonated so poorly with audiences. Every time I bring the series up in conversation with my friends, they always reply with how much they dislike it. And to be honest, I don't really see why. So that's why I decided to rewatch every single one of them and rank them on a definitive Lhugueny tier list, to hopefully prove that these videos aren't the worst FNaF animations on YouTube. To make the grading a bit more simplified, we're going to implement what I call the Lhugueny Animated Musical Estimate, or LAME for short. LAME has 5 key factors. Visuals is the first, and I'll be assessing this requirement based on how good the animation is, and how good the video just looks in general. Second is music. This criteria deals with anything musical based that isn't spoken, so pretty much the beat and what I think of it. Next, I'll be judging the videos off their vocals, pretty much how good Mr. Logan Lhugueny sounds. And then, of course, we have to factor in lyrics. This will be judged with the most weight because the lyrics should apply to the games and have some relevance to the overall narrative. And finally, reaction or general emotion. This is easily the trickiest because it's entirely subjective. I'll rate this based off how I felt watching the video and how likely I'll be to watch it again. I'm giving each of the 5 requirements a score from 1 to 10, and then I'll average the scores out for a final rank, where I'll put it on the tier list.
Here's a little story about a man named Mike. He worked a job as security, he worked at night.
Lhugueny's first FNaF animated musical was on the first game. What a surprise. If I'm being honest, this one isn't all that bad. The animation, for one, is pretty decent and looks relatively fluid with all the motions. I really like how some of the characters are drawn, especially Foxy. He's never looked more creepy in drawing than before, and I really think this is in the video's favor. And for 2, the music is actually pretty good. I mean, it's nothing special, but compared to the other ones I've yet to talk about, it's pretty solid. I really like the beat in the background. It's odd how something so simple fits really well into the theming of the video. The lyrics are another plus. They're written from the perspective of the Night Guard, which you'd think was a no-brainer, but a couple of the musicals later on have weird perspective issues, so I consider this a blessing. The vocal performance as well is really good. Lhugueny has an issue with using too much autotune so he can record the entire song in one go. But there really isn't a lot of that here. Trust me when I say that autotune will not be your best friend later on, so not hearing it here is pretty refreshing. All in all, not a bad start so far. My final average ranking for everything came out to an even 6 out of 10, so all downhill from here.
I'll do whatever it takes to keep this job, or I'll be out on the streets like a lazy slob.
Don't Stop the Clock is an oddly enjoyable experience. Out of any of the animations featured in this video, I remember my first viewing of this the most. I remember I was grounded and I snuck into my parents' room where they were hiding my iPad, only for me to sit there and watch this video the day it came out. I even remember commenting first because I had gotten there so early. I was then caught and my iPad was taken away for longer. I still haven't gotten it back. Okay, enough of my childhood trauma, the actual music video. The animations seem to have changed quite a bit from how they were in FNaF 1. Hell, the entire thing feels experimental. From the new drawing style to the coloring, Toy Bonnie is this weird deep blue and I really don't like it.
Why are you blue?
The music isn't bad. Just like the first one, the beat is pretty solid and actually enhances the experience in my opinion. The only aspect I really don't like about the music is the vocals. There is a noticeable amount of autotune present, and it's really disorienting. There really isn't much else to talk about here. This one is just very in my opinion. There's this bit at the end of the song that kind of alludes to the Bite of 87, which felt more out of place than anything else. Also, Jeremy pulls a gun out of his pocket to shoot Foxy, which is just super mind-numbing to think about. But I guess it's okay to have a gun on you everywhere because it's the 80s. This one gets a 5 out of 10 from me. For the first time in FNaF animated musical history, the person singing isn't the game's protagonist. Who else to fill this role better than good old Willie Afton? And oh my god, he looks terrible here. I'm not even joking when I say that this Springtrap design actually gave my 8-year-old self nightmares. This thing is so hideous, but from a horror perspective, low-key perfect. Also, he's just animated super weirdly here. Lhugueny draws his characters to be rigged, so that way they can be animated quicker. It's because of this technique that the videos are pushed out so quickly after the game releases. In my opinion, in the early attempts of this, it really sucked, with the animations getting super funky with their movements. Thankfully, over the years, he's improved this and they no longer look as bad. As for the rest of the video, it's animated under a similar principle. It looks alright, I guess, but what makes up for this is the music. And man, does it deliver. This music absolutely slaps, and the lyrics too are phenomenal.
It's great, so many guys I can rape.
Yeah, I'm not gonna dance around this one. Some of the lyric choices are absolutely wild. I was 8 when I first watched this video, and I had no clue what that word or even half of the profanities used even meant. That small lyric isn't the only questionable one either. There's another scene where he talks about how he makes the other guards. This entire video must have been a marketing nightmare for Scott because of how this video was released so close to the game. A moment of silence for the children who had to hear this. Yeah, overall, this gets a 3.6 out of 10 from me. This is where the series actually picks up. The FNaF 4 animated musical is the first one I would actually consider to be good. First off, let me address the most obvious difference. Lhugueny isn't making the songs original anymore. This time, he's using pre-existing songs and changing the lyrics to make them fit. To be honest, on paper, it shouldn't work, but here, it does. And it sounds great. The FNaF 4 musical uses Chandelier by Sia, which I surprisingly hadn't heard until doing research for this video. The rest of the animations are pretty good too. I really like how the nightmare animatronics are drawn, and how grand the finale is, even if it wasn't at all in the game. I really don't have a lot else to say about this one, you should really just go watch it. The council says 6.8 out of 10. I really don't know how to feel about the FNaF World animated musical. In one sense, this is the most cringe-worthy video I've ever had the dishonor of watching, and in another sense, it's straight fire. Okay, so this is a parody of All Night by Iconopop, did I say that right? Which is another song that I really hadn't heard before making this video. Honestly, I think it works really well in the parody. It brings the catchy and vibrant feeling of FNaF World to life, and I really appreciate that. The chorus as well is one of the most catchy things I've ever heard. It will not leave me alone. The lyrics happen to be moves in the game, and it works really well together. Okay, that's everything I enjoyed. The rest of this video is just alright. The song sometimes switches to a B-side with Nightmare Bonnie and Foxy underground. They talk about something, but their voices are so highly pitched up I can barely understand what they're saying. It really sucks too because we cut to those guys too much. The visuals were another grievance of mine. All the characters are modeled after their Lhugueny non-adventure form, and it looks super uncanny. The best example of this is Spring Bonnie. Seeing it not in Springtrap form really messes with my head. Overall, it's not a bad video by any means, but it's not that amazing either. Hence why my average score was a 5.8 out of 10. Just like the game, the animated music video isn't all that great. For starters, the animation looks really off compared to previous works. I think that's entirely due to the fact that this one was made in about a week. Sister Location released on Friday, October 7th, and the music video was pushed out the following Saturday. The entire thing is rushed and doesn't look very good in my opinion. However, the only good thing about it is the music. Similar to previous musicals, this too is a parody of a pre-existing song. This time, Push It to the Limit, which is most iconically used in that one scene from Scarface. That's all I can really give it credit for, everything else is just bleh. There is just way too much auto-tune used to the point where it gives me a headache. But at least the lyrics aren't that bad.
Sexy, creepy voice whispering.
Wait, isn't she 7? Overall, just skip this one, you really aren't missing much. This gets a 4.6 out of 10 from me.
Because Lefty, he'll come for me.
I have a bit of a confession. I really like this one. While working on this video, I listened to it multiple times. Okay, it may seem crazy, everything here is spot on. Okay, first thing, the visuals. They actually look really good here. Some segments are animated really well. There definitely isn't as much of that character warping that's been present with the previous animations, which looks so refreshing. But where I think this video really shines is in its music. This song is a parody of Lady Gaga's Perfect Illusion, which for the first time ever, I prefer the FNaF parody over the actual song. It's just that good. What I really like most about the lyrics is that everything said pertains to the game. There isn't a lot of that weird reference bullshit that we've seen with the others, and it's just everything about Pizza Sim, but done in a way that doesn't over-explain anything. One of my favorite details from the video is how the protagonist explains how Lefty is coming to get them, and from that point on, Lefty is the central antagonist of the song. Then about halfway through, Lefty's mask falls off to reveal the puppet, where it then takes the place of Lefty throughout the entire song. That's called proper story and world building done in an Lhugueny video. I'm impressed. So it's no wonder that this gets a score of an 8.4 out of 10 from me. Just real impressive stuff here. Hopefully Lhugueny can keep it up. Well, he didn't. Okay, let's clear up the obvious. Yes, this wasn't animated by him. Something Lhugueny did to help speed up his video production was to bring on another animator. More specifically, Danny Lesko of Herbal Tunes. It's not that I don't like his art style, it's just I don't like his art style. There's just something so unnatural about how his characters are animated. Their movements are choppy, and paired with the very ugly drawings, it isn't a very pleasant viewing experience. The music itself, thankfully, isn't all that bad, but it's not great either. The beat is rather catchy, and paired with the chorus makes this song a bit of an earworm. The vocals and lyrics are just alright in my opinion, not great, and just seem to over-explain Security Breach's plot points. There are some sections that didn't have any auto-tune, which I honestly appreciate a lot. However, because of the abysmal art direction, I gave my experience a 1 out of 10. Averaging out everything here gives this one a 2.8 out of 10. A new series lowest. And just like that, we've survived the worst FNaF animations on YouTube. Here's my completed tier list, by the way. It's interesting to see how the series started to go downhill and then pick up momentum towards the end, only for the ratings to drop again. Okay, so what have we learned? Honestly, nothing. It felt good to look back at what initially got me so intrigued in FNaF in the first place. Okay, that's all I got. Good night, Tri-State area.